well, you're here for a very special reason, and you were in Japan because you were playing the Duskbloods, which is a Switch 2 exclusive from FromSoftware and Nintendo. Still wild to me that this is happening, and you played, about 8 hours of it. Your preview's up now on IGN and on YouTube, so go check that out. We knew so little about this game before this hands-on preview, so I felt like your preview had to shed a lot of light on just what this game is, and you texted me when you were writing it, and you said, I'm at 2,700 words and still feel like I've barely explained what this game is. So let's talk about it just from very surface level to get started. What is the Duskbloods?
Ooh, how do I make this succinct? Think of it as it plays like a Souls game that you know from Software, but it is in the context of a PvPvE multiplayer game with rules that are influenced by tabletop and board games. So to explain that part a little bit, there are 4 phases in each match, 8 players. And in that map, you don't have to kill each other. You actually kind of shouldn't unless the phase asks you to do that. What I mean by that is that in phase 1, you're leveling up, you're fighting NPCs, you are getting virtue points. So the whole point of this game is to earn virtue points. Think of them as victory points in board games. You do all kinds of other objectives around the map. You could co-op with players in that match to take down tougher enemies. And then everyone makes it to phase 2. Phase 2 ramps up a little bit more. You got to keep getting more virtue points. But at the end of that phase, the bottom 2 point getters are knocked out. And in that phase, there's this thing called rituals, specific zones on the map where killing other players in that boundary will get you virtue points. And there's sort of this king of the hill type thing going on within that boundary as well. So that's when it really heats up against other players. Phase 3, same thing. And then the bottom 3 point getters are then bounced. Phase 4, you got 3 players left, and it's a triple threat match, and that's all there is to it, baby.
Okay, so that kind of, to me, I played a lot of Elden Ring Night Rain, and it's a little bit like day 1, day 2, and then a final boss. But instead of a final boss, it's a PvP between the top 3 point getters in those first few phases. Is that like a fair comparison for people? Which is hard on this show because Night Rain didn't even come to Switch. So it's like, this is like a pretty complicated game to explain.
Yeah, but that is I think that's a fair assessment of what this game is. Of course, that comes with a lot of nuances because through that 8 hours, every time I thought it was starting to get a little repetitive, like each match, I started to discover new things. Each phase, there was something new I stumbled upon. Each match, there was a new tactic or method that I employed that kind of that got me more virtue points faster. And it was kind of this race between all of us who had just, as content creators and other people in media, we were all learning the game on the fly. And we were all discovering things on our own and then collectively coming together, trying to figure out, different strategies. And even when we are adversaries too, we're sharing information, we're trying to figure out what this game is, poking and prodding around the world. And there's a lot of things that I picked up. I was telling them, I was like, with the capture points, you have to defend them because other players can steal them. You lose those virtue points, they take them. And then also learning how to do some of the more intricate moves with like perfect parry timing. And there's 6 characters you can choose from in the network test. We were playing the network test early. And there's 6 characters who have all of their own nuances with their moveset. So there's that's the thing. If you ever played a From Software game, not a lot is explained to you, and there's a lot of discovery along in that process. And granted that this is a multiplayer game and there's like a lot of different rules going on, there's a lot of moving parts. They have an extensive tutorial, but even then that gives you like the foundation and the basics to then go into the game and then start unraveling things yourself within that map. There's a lot of different regions. It's a lot of verticality. You have a quadruple jump. You have an air dash. It's got a lot more mobility than previous From Software games. I think I say that I love Sekiro. Sekiro is still my favorite From Soft game. It doesn't quite have the speed of Sekiro, but it definitely has the mobility. Like you haven't seen before. So that lets them do a lot more interesting things with the map. And some of the PvP matches get pretty wild because that lock-on targeting system is fighting for its life, as I am too. But yeah, that's it feels like, what if From Software kind of made part of their game a Smash Bros style thing? Like it almost feels like an arena fighter or a platform fighter in that final phase. it's kind of wild, like the direction that they're going in. But part of me, or not part of me, but like all of me actually says it all kind of works. Once you figure out how this game works, it's kind of magical, and it's very unique. It's unlike anything else that I played from the developer of FromSoftware, but it's unlike anything else I've played in the multiplayer sense. So I'm a little worried it might be a little too niche, especially being a Switch 2 exclusive and multiplayer only. But man, are they going for it with this one.
Well, even on that note, like a thing that jumps out to me as you're talking about this is like, it's not just that it's unique within the multiplayer space. The PV, like even the term PvPvE is very commonly nowadays referred to extraction shooter style games. Yeah. And most, if not all of, none of those are on Switch, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's not really, Nintendo is not really the home for those types of games nowadays. And so like, it's unique within that genre, but then also on top of that, it is not really a thing a lot of Switch players are doing. Not that saying that there's no PvP stuff on Switch, just saying it's like even in the realm it is coming out in, it's unique from, you know, what we expect.
Yeah, it's they're playing for a crowd that might not necessarily be in tune with this style of game. Now, my thinking is that maybe this would push some of the soul sickos to get a Switch 2 and play this game, because that's the only way they're going to play it. Or, you know, have people who wouldn't have touched these games otherwise give it a shot, and maybe they vibe with it. I asked Miyazaki, I actually did an interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki, and I asked him about that. And it's like, are you concerned about maintaining an audience or gaining an audience, you know, with this being the game it is, multiplayer only, on the Switch 2 as an exclusive? And his answer was like, I mean, like, you can only say so much, but he was pretty confident in saying that, like, hey, this is the kind of game that I would want to play. If you want to lean towards the PvE, there are methods to do that. If you want to lean on PvP, you could do that too. And our onboarding process was made, I don't want to say in collaboration, but it was like, he was talking about how the Nintendo partnership really shaped parts of this game. Like having that tutorial was so important. If you played a FromSoftware game before, they drop you into that thing and you figure it out and you got to fight for your life. Here they have like a 4-step tutorial that took about 30 minutes. And then so I think that's partially Nintendo being like, hey, if you're going to make this an exclusive for us, like you really got to help players get across the board. So I think that they're banking on, you know, their legacy, pulling their whipping their weight around when it comes to this, you know, and Nintendo being like, hey, we have a FromSoftware exclusive. That's crazy. So I think that there is a mutually beneficial thing going on here, and hopefully it works.
Can I make a very embarrassing confession?
Oh,
here?
no.
Please.
And it's a confession and a question. It all rolled into one. So it's the whole package here. I don't know what the E in PvE stands for. Like, I don't understand. I know what PvP is. When people say PvE, they might as well just be saying,
but I thought it was environment.
Environment? I always thought it was enemy. I always thought it was just basically like that PvP.
Oh, so nobody knows. Okay, perfect.
But that's an accurate. That would be, if you said that, I would understand what you're saying also. But it is player versus environment. Basically meaning computer controlled enemies.
Environment. Okay. See, now I'm the idiot. There you go.
Yeah. That's the reviews editor for y'all.
Yeah, Michael, I really liked that part of your interview with Miyazaki about the Nintendo partnership, and basically saying what he said was having somebody to give feedback on that onboarding process was valuable. And he said that Nintendo is definitely the right partner for better conveying that information in a way that is understandable to the player. It definitely suits their strengths. And as you mentioned, FromSoft games notoriously vague, and just go for it. Have fun. Good luck. We don't care if you die a million times. And to see that partnership bleeding through in some way to this game that on the surface still looks 100% From, I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. And what was I going to say? In that interview too, he was Miyazaki said himself, he's like, hey, I'm not that great at action games. So I'm like, dang, my goat is washed. No, I'm just kidding. But making a conscious effort to make sure that there are things that you can enjoy in the game. In the network test, you always have to end up doing PvP at the end, having that triple threat match. But he said that in the final version of the game, there will be options for different types of conclusions to matches. In terms of details, there's not much that they could have shared. But that is something that he is very aware of. And I think that like through this network test, they're going to learn a lot, see what people vibe with, see what they don't. Part of me, at least from what I'm playing, is that if you are actively avoiding the PvP portion of it, you're kind of missing out on some of the more exciting parts of this game. It's in a way, like, again, I said, maybe it's niche, but also he mentioned about the Nintendo partnership is that this is what he pitched to them initially. And it's pretty close to what that initial pitch was. And Nintendo was on board. So I can imagine Miyazaki and FromSoftware like turning the knob and looking back and be like, oh, we have some crazy ideas. We're going to crank it up, or they can have a problem with it. And the way he explained is like, kind of every step of the way through, they were like, keep going. This seems great. So this is what they wanted.
So cool. Yeah, to have somebody like knock on Nintendo's door and pitch something, and then they're just all on board, and it's this crazy rated M, probably, we don't know yet, but online competitive multiplayer game. That's a really neat direction. And yeah, that's something maybe we should talk about a little more. Is this game is only online multiplayer, right? Like there is no offline mode. You will engage with other players if you play this, and I think that is a turnoff to a lot of people, where in a FromSoft game, if the boss is better than you, like it stays there. It's static. That boss is that boss. You can get better. You can learn its patterns, and you could eventually overcome it. But in this PvP situation, there's always going to be people that are better than you. So kind of how is the game going to be balanced? There's like ranked modes, right? And it's going to be skill-based matchmaking. Yeah. And I think they're trying to make it so there's ways to win without just getting good, like summons and things like that too.
Yeah.
This is also like the other thing that strikes me about this, though, to that end, is like, this is not going to be a game that appeals to everyone in, like, you know, they say that about like FromSoft games. It's like, oh, it's super hard if you're not going to be into it. You know, maybe it's not for you. But like, what I mean by that is like, this is like a very FromSofty game, but like probably a lot of FromSoft fans are not necessarily gonna be into this one if they're not on the PvP side of things in other FromSoft games. Similarly, there's probably a lot of Nintendo fans who are maybe not going to be quite gelling with this, as just like, this isn't what I play my Switch for, right? Which I think is great. I love that they're exploring new territory, but I think it does mean that this game could do basically everything it's trying to do right, and it could still not be for you. And that's just a thing that's gonna be true for some people, and will be interesting to see how welcoming they can make it and how much they can appeal to those people that would otherwise be turned off by this.
Yeah. Another thing I was curious about and asked him about was, because, you know, I think everyone experiences this to some extent, is that you might be into a multiplayer game and then, you know, you can't play for maybe a month or a couple of weeks, and then everyone just like kind of passes you by, and you come back in and you're like, damn, everybody is so much better than me, and it's hard to keep up. And knowing the kinds of people who stick with this kind of game, who stick with some FromSoftware games, they're going to be the ones who are going to be nasty with it. They're going to be like having next level strats. They're going to be very good at the PvP aspect. And then imagine a newcomer being like, oh, well, I can't get the game like 3 months down the line, or I picked it up and then now I can get around to it. They might jump in, try to figure things out, but when it comes to PvP, they are probably going to get wrecked. And so I kind of asked him, are you concerned about that? And do you have any sort of ways to mitigate that? And he was talking about how they're working on systems in place to incentivize veterans to help newcomers and to kind of build out a lot of those co-op mechanics. I saw some of the co-op mechanics in the game itself in the network test, where you can target a player and then propose an alliance, and then you team up as a duo, or you can queue into the match as duos straight up. So you're going to have a partner. In terms of what those systems are going to look like, in terms of how they're going to incentivize players to do that sort of thing, we're not sure, because he said that the team is still trying to work out what that looks like. But it reminds me of, I mean, this isn't also, well, now it might apply to some, but Final Fantasy 14, they have like a mentor system. They have like their daily challenges are geared towards rewarding players who are going to go back and do old dungeons alongside new players. And I was thinking about that. And there are ways to do that to make that appealing for both parties. So hopefully that works out, because I am concerned about months down the line, like what does the tail of this game look like? Because I feel a little bit of that with Marathon. I love Marathon. It's one of my favorite games of the year, but even I had to stop playing after like 2 months because I was just doing other things. And then I look back, I'm like, this game has changed so much. And also everyone has beaten me down out here in the streets of Marathon. So something to think about.
I was going to bring up Marathon because in that game you can kind of make alliances with others, especially if you're playing as like the Rook class, which is a solo flyer who drops in on their own, and you can meet up with another Rook and you kind of like crouch at each other for a bit. And you're like, we're cool, but then you can still shoot them in the back before you extract in the match. So in Duskbloods, when you make an alliance with somebody, is that like a game sanctioned alliance where you cannot attack that person? You are actually teammates. You can't turn on them.
Yeah. It basically it changes. So like they're allies, no friendly fire there.
Cool.
Yeah, so it is a game sanctioned thing, but also there are on the co-op topic, there are these tougher enemies, like boss style enemies across the map. When you fight them, you can also pull other players into that to help you. So you have like a temporary truce where you both fight this tougher boss, and if you defeat it, you both get virtue points. So there's things like that. And like Marathon has had a pretty interesting trajectory in terms of how they have incentivized players to cooperate with each other. So it's less hostile. And I think that is something that FromSoftware is probably going to have to reckon with at some point with this game.
If somebody kills you, though, not in the final round, you're not eliminated, right? You'll respawn and come back.
Yeah, there's you don't die. Like it's all about the virtue points. You're not killed and then like booted out of the game. That's not how that works. But you have to respawn, and you just kind of, it's like, oh damn, well I wasted a lot of time because I got killed. But yeah, you're not rewarded for killing players outside of those specific ritual sites that I mentioned earlier. So
that's a pretty fascinating choice.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I don't want to be hunted down by anybody. Oftentimes I just cross paths and be like, all right, you're doing your thing. I'm not going to bother you because we're not incentivized to do that.
Are all these characters? Oh, there they are right there. Are they cooked into the game, or is there a character creation?
No, these are like the set characters. They're like character classes, I guess.
All right.
Like they have
amiibo when?
Dude,
like
wild.
They did a Dark Souls amiibo. They did one when that came to Switch. Yeah.
These would be amazing amiibo.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick. Put one of them in Smash, man. Put Zork in Smash. Zork is the robot chicken guy all the way at the other end.
Is that your favorite? I saw a bunch of clips of that one.
He's my worst enemy. So Blessing from Kind of Funny, he's my roommate, and we were both on this trip, and he was high level Zork playing. He was a high level Zork player out there. He was learning the moves, and he has like this rocket propelled dash at you that can knock you, that causes knockback. And every time I saw him charging up, I'm like, damn, he's gonna get me, and he got me multiple times. Even in like the final PvP phase, I'm like, I got no strats, I got no tactics to counter this. But yeah, each character has their own sort of meta and way to use them, and I think that's an interesting aspect as well. There was 6 in the network test. There's going to be 10 overall, and learning the intricacies of these characters is also going to be another added layer on top of all the other things we had already mentioned.
Have you gotten a sense for progression in this game? You mentioned that you'll still get rewarded with things like cutscenes or whatever for not winning the match, maybe just doing well or even just playing. But is there a story to follow besides just like FromSoft classic lore? Is there an ending to this, or is it really just this is a forever game, drop in and play it?
It's I asked Miyazaki about that, and it was pretty vague with what he was able to share or what he wanted to share. But yeah, like you mentioned, there's they don't have the progression systems in place quite yet, but there will be some sense of like unlocking new things for your characters, whether that be skins or extra lore, backstory. He mentioned that story cutscenes will be shown at the House of Night, which is their sort of hub area. In terms of what that looks like, at the cadence in which they will give that to you, not quite sure yet. But he said that stuff is there, and that's there. There's going to be storytelling to kind of unlock and uncover as you play more. And yeah, you don't have to win these matches because it is pretty tough to come out the other end as the victor. That is also one area in which he's conscious of, not fully catering to the sweaties. Sorry, that there's a reason to play even if you're not the greatest. But what that looks like, not quite sure yet.
Cool. Seth, what's your take on this now that we actually know what this game is? Because we knew almost nothing prior to today.
I think I'm way more interested than I was before because like the FromSoft games, the Souls-likes, I just love this aesthetics and just how gnarly and weird and kind of grotesque everything about it is. It's just a gothic horror nightmare and
vampires.
But I also am just so bad at Souls-likes that I as much as I try, I cannot get any of them to stick, with the exception of Elden Ring. And this does seem like it might, because I played a lot of competitive like PUBG, 770 hours, just, getting there and winnowing down the field and getting it to just where a win condition can happen between me and one other person. And this isn't obviously a battle royale, but it does have that kind of winnowing down the field till you get to the end. And I'm much more interested in this now than I probably was when we knew, or when we kind of just thought it was like a multiplayer Souls game. And now it looks more, I don't know. I'm way more interested in this now as someone who is not a Souls guy. That being said, every time a new Souls-like comes out, I'm like, yeah, this is the one. And so we'll see. Time will tell.
Also, on that note, shout out to From for, we've been in this sort of, not to over dramatize it a bit, but like at this epidemic of single player developers or single player focused developers doing multiplayer things and having to go live servicey, and that not always working out or being really disappointing or causing studio closures. And this is now they've always had multiplayer elements, not saying that wasn't part of their DNA from the beginning, but Night Rain and this are explicitly multiplayer things in a way that they have not done really before. And like, I really respect them for doing it how they want to do it and doing it like, this isn't, to Seth's point, this isn't just a battle royale. This isn't just an extraction shooter. It's got elements of those things. They're clearly playing to that crowd in certain ways, but they are not just opening up the playbook and just doing that thing, but with From combat. And I really respect that. I respect that they're trying to do something their way and in whatever they find interesting. And, even if it's not necessarily specifically for me still, that like, I really respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're one of the few standing studios, I guess, that like they can wield their reputation to be experimental. I think they've done their house style of game several times now, and so they have the room to explore different things. I mean, they were able to garner a Nintendo partnership to do this thing. So, when you have the opportunity, you take it, whether you think it's going to be a success or not. That's something that Miyazaki also said in my interview. He's like, yeah, my ideas aren't always necessarily the most business minded decisions.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing this because we think it's going to be like it's a big business decision. I'm just like out here with a ton of ideas, and this just so happens to be the way in which I'm packaging it. And, he talked about how much he likes tabletop and board games. And he's like, you know what? I have all these ideas, but they just kind of don't make sense for a single player game. Let's just do a multiplayer game. Like, that's the vibe that he was giving off when he was like talking about like why he wanted to make this sort of game, and like some of the like concerns that other people might have who love what their house style of games are.
That's so cool because, like Tom was just saying, it wasn't a mandate, hey, make a multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we have these ideas and it better suits this format. That's really cool. And that's really inspired. And this conversation is making me more excited about the game too, because seeing it's not just about hunting everybody down in the first few phases of this, because as you said, it doesn't make sense to, and it's still competitive, but I can already even see the board game and tabletop influences just from how you're talking about it, because in games like that, there's often opportunities to screw over the other players with your cards, but you could gain more points by just playing your own game and being passive and using your skills for yourself. Like, this isn't a board game, but I play a ton of Dominion, the deck building card game. And there's attacks in there, but I'm often like, it's not worth it for me to ruin your turn because I could get a really good turn right now if I play these other cards. Like, that is a really cool concept. And yeah, it all ends in PvP, but I'm interested to see kind of what culture forms throughout a match when you are running into people and saying, hey, let's do a temporary alliance because we're at the bottom of the leaderboard. And if we kill this guy together, we could fly up the ranks and move on to the next round. Like, that's really cool. And I'm not a huge FromSoft person, but I'm excited to try this now. I think it looks really neat.
Wait. I have the way to get Logan to guaranteed play this.
What's the way, mate?
It's FromSoft City Trial.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is. Yeah, wow, it really is. I was thinking it kind of even was reminding me of Mario Party in some weird ways, but it is totally City Trial.
Dog, when I was chilling with Bless in Japan, he was like really struggling with a quick way to explain this game. He was like, not to snitch on him, but he's like, it's kind of like High Guard, huh? And we're like, whoa, hey. And then he's like, no. It's like Mario Party. And we're like, yo.
Yeah.
He was on to something right there. But you're kind of not wrong though. It does have that, because there are like random map events that happen that, if you're in the right place at the right time, that could be really advantageous for you. And then there's like some moments where you just kind of, this game is just screwing me over without much of your input. Like, those things can happen. And there's an adversarial aspect, even if you're all competing in parallel for points and Mario Party Stars. But like, there's a little bit of that vibe in there.
Yeah, man, Tom, City Trial is a really good comparison. That's
Especially,
pretty good.
Let's hope that they don't make the same mistakes, and that whatever the competition at the end is, going into the beginning of the round, right? Because there's gonna be different final rounds.
Yeah,
we learned this lesson already.
Are there different final rounds, or is it always, from what you saw, is it just the same battle?
Yeah, from what I saw in the network test, it's always going to be either a 3-player PvP or a 2v2 if you queue into as duos. But they have Miyazaki did say that there will be different final phases. As terms of like how different they'll be, who's to say?
Yeah. Cool. Can you queue into duos with a friend, or is it only with strangers? Do you know that?
Ooh, I don't know, but I don't see why they wouldn't let you queue in with a friend. Because we were in the FromSoftware office, and it was just kind of randomized. Like, okay, we're gonna queue into duos. Everyone hit go, and it was just matched with people in that room. So, but I mean, like, there's no reason why they wouldn't want you to queue in with a friend.
It is true there is no reason, but when you're dealing with Nintendo and FromSoft, who make the weirdest multiplayer decisions of any two and now they're together, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. So this game doesn't have a release date yet. Michael and I were talking about this morning. The website on Nintendo.com still says 2026, but nothing beyond that, and we don't know when it's coming. Any guesses to how much this is going to cost? Is this a full $70 title? Is it like a $40 thing? Night Rain was definitely discounted. This is giving me the vibes of something that's going to be $40 or $50 if I had to guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that this, I wouldn't say they're going to struggle to get players through the door, but I think that is to their benefit to get as many players through the door as possible. And like you said, Night Rain launched at what, $40 or $50? I think
it was 40. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I see that being similar here. Granted, Duskbloods feels like a more ambitious idea. Night Rain was built off the back of Elden Ring, which was, a pre-existing game, whereas this is kind of built from the ground up, new stuff across the board. So, that takes a lot more work. So maybe like a $50 game. That could be a thing. And I think maintaining, like, getting people through the door and then maintaining that player base is going to be such an important aspect for this game's kind of long-term future.
Cool. Well, that is the Duskbloods. If you want to try it out, well, hopefully you already signed up because you can't sign up anymore. But the network test is this weekend If you signed up, you have to go to the Network Test's official site to see if you got in. They are not emailing you. So you got to go back to the FromSoft website to see if you were selected. And from there, you can access a code to download the test software from the Switch 2 eShop. The times are this weekend, Friday the 21st, Saturday the 22nd, and Sunday the 23rd, in a bunch of weird time windows, like 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. on Friday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. That's in Pacific. So hopefully you'll be out there. I'll be playing it. I got in. I'm excited to check it out. We won't have impressions next week because we have to pre-record next week's show right after this one due to Gamescom. So if you saw that I asked for your question block questions, that's when we're answering them, is on next week's show. So look forward to that. And Duskbloods impressions in 2 weeks.
Thanks for watching this clip from Nintendo Voice Chat. Be sure to catch the full episode over at youtube.com/IGN Games. New episodes of NVC drop every Friday on IGN Games, IGN.com, and your favorite podcast platforms. With the Nintendo Switch 2 finally here, there is so much to dive into. We appreciate you tuning in, and don't forget, NVC is the only place you can get the thing.